Good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to week 4 of the live interactive sessions for sustainable transportation systems offered through NPTEL. I am Sedu Vinayagam, a direct PhD scholar in the Civil Engineering Department at IIT Madras. Okay, so we'll get started with today's session. So let's start with an overview of the concepts that were covered in week 4 of this course. Right. So in the previous 3 weeks, so what we have discussed is so we started with the concept of sustainability, then moved into the impacts of the transportation system on the environment, and then in week 3 we looked at what are the uh, how do we quantify these impacts, right, through environmental impact assessment. Right? So we discussed the different processes and and some methods through which we can do the environmental impact assessment. Right? So in this week, week number 4, so this was more about looking at what is the global perspective, right? What is the approach that is being adopted in different parts of the world, and then we looked at multiple case studies, right? So on different modes of transportation, right, from road transportation, air transportation, waterways, and so on, right? So we looked at some examples and how the EAA was done on these different projects, right? So first lecture, it was again related to the global perspectives and the different practices that are being followed in different parts of the world, right? So we looked at how it is done in the EU, or how it is done in some of the Latin American countries and so on. And also we looked at a comparison of the EAA done in the developed countries versus in the developing countries, and how it is in India. Right. So we looked at different aspects, right? How the screening process is done, how it is different, how scoping is done, what is the level of public participation in different projects, and so on. And then we looked at the gaps or some of the limitations or loopholes that are present in the EAA, right? So one example was project splitting, right? So we looked at that, and also some measures on how to overcome those limitations, right? So that was what was covered in lecture 1. So lecture 2 was the first case study of EAA for the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project, right? So this was as the name says, it's a railway project, right? So railways. So we looked at what is this project about, right? And what are the benefits of this? What are the different impacts, that were identified. This was all before the implementation of the project, right? As we know, EAA is something that is done before we implement the project, right? So we study it before that. So what were the impacts that were identified, and what are the mitigation measures that were proposed, right? So all these aspects were discussed. And in lecture 3 we looked at an inland waterway which was in Hunan, Jiangjiang, right, in China, on that river. So inland waterway was proposed, right? And we looked at again what are the details and impacts and mitigation measures related to this particular project. And in the lecture number 4, we looked into roadways, right? So this was the National Highway number 707 in Himachal Pradesh, right? So this was about extending that particular national highway. So this was about this roadways, and in the final lecture of 4, we looked at an airport terminal building, right? So this was the proposal for building a new airport terminal for Guwahati International Airport, right? So we looked at this in the final lecture, right? So 4 different case studies on 4 different modes of related to 4 different transportation modes, right? And we discussed various aspects and how the EAA process was carried out, what are the different laws and criteria that were taken into consideration, and so on, right? So now we look at some problems or questions that are related to these aspects or concepts. Okay, so the first question for week 4 is: India follows the dash for the selection of parameters during the screening process of the environmental impact assessment. So the options are: A, only environment centered approach; B, only development centered approach; C, hybrid approach; and D, none of these. So as usual, we'll have polls for every question. So whenever you are ready, you can pick one of the four options in the poll. Okay, so we have one vote for option C, hybrid approach. Okay, let's look at the answer. So the right answer is option C, the hybrid approach, right? So we looked at these two selection of parameters approach. These two approaches for selecting parameters. One was the environment-centered approach, another is the development-centered approach, right? So the hybrid approach is nothing but it's a combination of both. So the environmental aspects as well as the development aspects will be taken into consideration, right? So environmental aspects would be related to what is the impact on the environment, right? What are the different emissions that will be released, what is the effect on soil, water, air, so on, right? Whereas development centered approach would be based on what kind of activity is being undertaken, right? So what is the economic impact and so on, right? So in India, so we follow the hybrid approach. We take into consideration both the environment as well as the development, parameters, and then make a decision on whether we have to go for the environmental impact assessment, right? So a detailed impact assessment, right? So this is for the screening process. So as we saw in the previous week, the screening process is, one of the earlier phases of the EAA, right, where we decide whether a detailed impact assessment has to be carried out or not, right? So to do that, we have certain parameters, and if a project that is proposed, seems to have on a large scale, and if it's a high impact, then we go for an environmental impact assessment, a detailed assessment, right? So to do that, in India, we follow this hybrid approach where we take both the development as well as the environmental centered approach. Okay, so with that, we move on to question number two. So SPV stands for SPV for a project stands for dash. So options are special purpose vehicle, standard purpose vehicle, standard project vehicle, and special project vehicle. Okay, we have two votes for option A. The right answer is option A. It is a special purpose vehicle, right? The SPV is an abbreviation for special purpose vehicle. So special purpose vehicle is nothing but it's a joint venture, right? So we have multiple organizations coming together, to perform a particular project, right? So that's what this term special purpose vehicle or SPV stands for. Okay, so we saw an example of this, in one of the case studies, in the first case study for the high-speed rail project. So where there was a special purpose vehicle, which was, a legal, joint venture between multiple corporations or organizations to, build this high-speed rail project between the Mumbai and Ahmedabad, right? So that was one of the examples that we had. So in large-scale projects, This is usually done, to minimize the risks, associated with the project for any one of the particular entities that are involved in the project, right? So multiple, partnering organizations are involved. So therefore, the risk for any individual organization would be minimized. Okay, so that's what SPV stands for. Okay, so question number 3 is, as per India's EAA draft notification 2020, the border area is defined as dash. So option A, 100-kilometer aerial distance from the border. Option B, 50-kilometer aerial distance from the border. C, 80-kilometer aerial distance from the border. And D, none of these. Okay, we have one vote for A and one vote for B. Okay, any other answer? All right. So we'll look at the right answer. The right answer is option A, 100-kilometer aerial distance from the border. Right. So as per this particular AA draft notification of 2020, so this border area definition is, you take the line of actual control, right? So we have the line of actual control that will, separate the borders, right? So with our neighboring countries. So you take 100 kilometers of aerial distance. So what is this aerial distance? So it is not the, the distance that you will, travel along the road, right? So it is basically like a straight line distance. So from the borderline, from the line of actual control, so you take a straight line distance of 100 kilometers, right? So all this area that is lying in this 100-kilometer distance from the borderline, so that is defined as the border area as per this EAA notification of 2020, right? So the right option is A. So question number 4 is, which of the following projects is exempted from the EAA process? The options are road infrastructure projects greater than 150 kilometers, reservoir projects, airport projects, and border infrastructure projects. Okay, we have two votes for option B. Any other answer? Okay, let's look at the right option. So the right option is option B. It is the broader infrastructure project. Okay. So here we are talking about which project is exempted. Exempted means for which project EAA is not necessary, right? It's not mandatory for EAA to be conducted, right? So that is which of them. So if you look at it, so options A, B, C, all these three require EAA, right? So we have seen this, in the examples, right? So we have seen, some snippets from the EA notifications of both 2006 as well as 2020 in both of them. So these three project types, the road infrastructure projects, reservoir projects, as well as ASO projects, require EAA, right? So like they could be under different categories. Like for example, road infrastructure, depending on the length, it could be either coming under category A or B or B1, B2 in terms of the 2020 notification, but it will be required for this road infrastructure project. Especially here, it is given that it is greater than 150, so definitely it will require AAA. And reservoir projects, airport projects, they will always require AAA to be carried out, right? But it is the border infrastructure projects which are exempted from the AA process. Why? Because these are very critical and strategic projects required for the nation's security. So therefore, these are exempted from the AA process. Okay. So the right option is option B. Okay. So we'll discuss the doubts at the end of the session. Okay. So we'll finish the questions, then we'll have the doubts at the end of the session. Okay, so moving on to question number 5. Project splitting is a process generally used dash. So the options are A, in the screening stage of the EA, B, to bypass the EA process, C, in the scoping process of EA, and D, none of the above. We have one vote for B, one for C. Any other answer? Okay, so let's take a look at the right answer. So the right answer is option B, to bypass the EA process. Right? So this is one of the gaps or the limitations of the AA process that we looked at in lecture 1 of week 4, right? So it's the project splitting. So what is project splitting? It's basically you're trying to, you want to circumvent the AA process. You do not want to perform that. So to do that, what you do, you are trying to show that the scale of the project is small, right? So there are in the screening process, as we have seen, there are thresholds set for depending on the type of activity, there are thresholds set on different parameters, right? So that tells us whether the EA is required or not, right? For example, if you take the highway example, so based on the length of the highway, we decide whether it is category A or B or B1, B2, right? So that will tell us what at what level we have to perform EAA. So what we do is, to circumvent the EAA, we try to split it. For example, say 100 kilometers is the limit. We try to, first say, and suppose we want to build for 150 kilometers. So we say that first propose a project for building 50 kilometers. Right? So then what happens? Then the project will not be crossing the threshold limit for going for an EAA, right? So therefore, it will be exempted from the EAA process. So then once you complete that, you propose the remaining link into multiple other projects, right? So that way you're trying to circumvent the EAA process. So that's what is called the project splitting, right? So this is done generally to bypass the EAA process, right? So this is not a part of the EAA itself, right? It's not done as a part of EAA. It's not in the screening stage or scoping stage. It is, the project proponent. They are trying to split the project and then so that they don't have to do EAA, right? So this is not part of the EAA process. This is done to bypass the EAA process. Okay, so and there are some measures also we have seen that help us, check this project splitting, right? So that it is not, bypassed. So, for example, we've seen in some countries, even though the threshold is not crossed by some project, they can still be required to do the EA if the committee that overlooks it feels that it should undergo the EA process, right? So there are some mechanisms in place in different countries that make sure that this project splitting is not misused. Okay, so the right option is, so question number 6 is India's first high-speed rail corridor (MAHSR) is planned to connect dash and dash cities. Options are Mumbai and Agra, Mumbai and Ahmedabad, Mizoram and Ahmedabad, Mizoram and Agra. Okay, so we have two votes for option B. So the right option is option B. It's Mumbai and Ahmedabad, right? So this acronym MAHSR stands for Mumbai Ahmedabad High Speed Rail, right? So this was the project that was undertaken to build a high speed rail corridor, right? So this, as we saw in the first case study, it was proposed to use the bullet trains, right? So you might have heard about the bullet trains from Japan, right? So they are one of the fastest rails, right? So they can reach speeds up to 350 kilometers per hour, right? So this was the project that was proposed to connect the cities of Mumbai and Ahmedabad, right? So the M&A stands for Mumbai and Ahmedabad in this acronym. So this is the first high-speed rail corridor, right? So the first that is proposed using this bullet trains. Okay, so the right option is B. Question number 7 is offsetting of deforestation for mitigation in an EAA is done by dash. So the options are A, conservation of existing trees, B, plantation of new trees, C, both of these, and D, none of Okay, so we have one vote for B, one for C. Okay, the right option is option B. It is plantation of new trees. Right. So here we are looking at mitigation measure for deforestation. So deforestation, which means that we are going to cut trees, right? So for that particular project, it is required that some trees need to be cut down, right? But we want to offset for this particular impact. So this is one of the environmental impact, right? Deforestation. So we want to offset it. So as we saw in the previous week, so what is offsetting is it is one of the strategies of the mitigation process, right? So we have several strategies that we have, and one of the final or the least preferred one is the offsetting that is done when we are not able to do any of the previous ones, right? So previous ones, like if we first try to avoid a particular impact at all. So if that is not possible, we go for some mitigation, right, like reducing the impact of that, through different measures and so on. And finally, if we are not able to do any of that, finally we go for offsetting. That is to try to compensate for this particular impact. For example, here deforestation, we are trying to cut down trees. Maybe because we need the land for building some facilities. Right. So how do we offset it? So because we are cutting down the trees at this particular location, we try to plant new trees at a suitable location somewhere nearby, right? So that's how we offset for this deforestation. So that is one of the mitigation measures that we do in EA. So option A says conservation of existing trees. So this is not the mitigation measure because we cannot conserve because we need to cut down the existing trees, right? So at the particular site, we need to cut down, right? So that's because of the project requirements. So we cannot conserve that. So this is not possible. So be planting of new trees. So that is possible. Maybe not at the same place, but at somewhere nearby, with probably with the species that are native to that place. That is more preferable. So B is one way we could offset for the deforestation. It's obviously so both of these is not applicable. So the only right option here is plantation of new trees. Okay, so question number 8 is which of the following is a mitigation measure for slope stabilization to prevent landsliding? So the options are crash barriers, bamboo net plantation, hazard markers, and out. So we have two votes for option B. Any other answer? Okay, so let's take a look at the right option. The right option is option B. It's bamboo nut plantation. Right. So we are looking for mitigation measure of slope stabilization. Right. So why do we need slope stabilization? Slope, if it is not stable, if the soil erodes, then what it can lead to is landsliding. Right. So this is mostly that we see in the hilly areas. Right. So this is more common, especially in rainy season. We hear news about this landsliding. Right? So this can happen because of not having a stable a surface, a stable slope. Right? So this can also happen when we are working on new projects. So we sometimes create some of these slopes through the soil that has been excavated, right? So, but this will not be as strong or strongly held together. This will be loose, when we dump them. So, what can happen is this can get eroded, with rain, and also it can lead to landslides. So what do we do to mitigate that? So we go for this bamboo nut plantation. So it is one of the measures. There are other strategies, other measures that are available. So bamboo nut plantation is one such measure that can help us prevent this soil erosion and also prevent landslides. Okay, so what do? We create a mesh, or a network of network using this bamboo. Uh, uh, Fibers, right? So therefore that helps the soil together, right? So it does not prevent the loose material that is dumped on the slopes to get eroded, right? So that's how it prevents the landslides. So this bamboo net plantation is one of the measures. The crash barriers, hazard markers, they are not really relevant for slope stabilization. They are used for preventing road accidents, right? So they are not really relevant for slope stabilization. So right option is B, bamboo net plantation. Question number 9 is the business as usual scenario for the Mumbai Ahmedabad high speed rail considered in the EEA study was dash. So the options are high speed rail with embankments, bridges, and tunnels. Option B, high speed rail with viaducts, bridges, and tunnels. Option C, no high speed rail. And option D is none of these. Okay, we have one vote for A and one for C. Any other answer? Okay, so the right option is option C. It is no high-speed rail. Okay, so again, this is the first case study that we were looking at, the Mumbai Ahmedabad high-speed rail, right? So here we are looking at the business as usual scenario. So what is this? So whenever we are doing an EAA process, a EAA study, right? It is not just the project that we are proposing that is being quantified, the impacts from that being quantified. So it is also necessary to look at alternative solutions, right? So here, what is the issue? It is the connectivity between the Mumbai and Ahmedabad, right? So to provide connectivity between Mumbai and Ahmedabad. Right? So we are trying to propose an efficient or an effective connectivity between these two cities, right? So this does not mean that there isn't any way to reach from Mumbai to Ahmedabad. So currently there is some way to reach from Mumbai to Ahmedabad, right? So through roads or other the existing rail network, right? So there is some existing solution, and we are providing some better solution through this current project, right? So we have to compare the proposed project, the proposed solution with other alternative solutions and also some existing solutions as well, right? So the business as usual scenario refers to the existing solution. So what is the current situation or the current scenario that is referred to as the business as usual? So which means that if you did not go for this project, the MAHSR project, so then what will be the impact, right? So what is the current scenario if we just let that be as it is, right? So that is the business as usual scenario. Right. So some other terms are also used for this, like do nothing scenario. Right. You are not going to carry out the project you are proposing. Then what happens? Right. So that is the business as usual scenario. So then for this particular project, so we looked at the high-speed rail with embankments, bridges, and tunnels, and high-speed rail with viaducts, bridges, and tunnels. The options A and B are alternative solutions, right? So alternative proposals. So you could give the same high-speed rail using embankments, or you could bring the same high-speed rail with viaducts or bridges. So these are alternative ways of providing the solution, whereas not providing the high-speed rail is the business as usual scenario or the current or the existing scenario. Right. So here the existing scenario or the business as usual is what is being asked. So therefore option C is the right option. Whereas A and B are alternative solutions, where C is the existing solution. Okay, so therefore the right option is C. Question number 10 is in European countries, member nations categorize projects for the EAA screening process in dash number of categories. Options are 2, 3, 4. Screening process is not a part of the EU's EAA process. have one vote for A. Any other answers? Okay, so let's take a look at the answer. So the right option is option A. It is two categories, right? So in according to the EU, right, all the member nations of EU. So so all the projects that are being undertaken, so they will be either in category one or category two, right? So this is at the screening stage, right? So for that they have to put the project as classify it as category one or category two. So this is fixed for all the member nations of EU. But how do they classify this as category one or category two? So that differs for depending on the country that is it is doing, right? So what parameters they consider or what processes they follow to do the screening, in to classify it as one or two. So that varies between the nations, but they all do categorize them into only two categories, right? So the right option is A, it is two categories. So screening will be there and the number of categories is also fixed, but the process and the parameters, they will vary between the countries. Question number 11 is we are given with two lists, list 1 and 2, and we need to match the items of the two lists correctly. Right? So list 1 has special purpose vehicle, Shinkansen, National High Speed Rail Corporation, Japan International Cooperation Agency. List 2 has funding agency of MAHSR, project proponent of MAHSR, legal entity for a project, and bullet train. So we have given with four different matchings, right? So we have to pick the right matching from list 1 to list 2. Okay, the poll is launched. You can make use of the poll. Any other answers other than B? Okay, we have one vote for A. Any other answer? All right. Take a look at the right option. So the right option is option A, right, where A is matched with 3, B with 4, C with 2, and D with 1. Okay, so A is special purpose vehicle, right? So we already looked at what the special purpose vehicle means, right? So it is basically a joint venture where multiple organizations come together to complete a specific project, right? So this is what a special purpose vehicle means. So therefore, it is a legal entity for performing a particular project, right? So therefore, the right match for A is 3. And Shinkansen, so Shinkansen is a word for the Japanese, a Japanese word, right? So that stands for the main line, right? So basically, it is used for the high-speed rails that are used in Japan, right? So colloquially, they are called bullet trains, right? So therefore, the option B is matched with 4, and C is National High Speed Rail Corporation, right? So we saw this particular entity as part of the case study one, right? So for the Mumbai Ahmedabad High Speed Rail, so the National High Speed Rail Corporation is the project proponent, right? So they are the ones who propose this high speed rail project between Mumbai and Ahmedabad. So they are the project proponents. So C is matched with 2, and D is Japan International Cooperation Agency. So this JICA is the one who funds this high-speed rail project, right? So they are the funding agency, right? So they give a loan basically for completing this high-speed rail. So also the technology is from Japan, right? So the bullet trains, and also this JICA is also providing the funds for implementing this high-speed rail project in India, right? So therefore they are the funding agency. So D is matched with 1. So the right match is given in option A. Yes, therefore the right option is A. Okay, question number 12 is which of the following is not a mitigation measure used for slope stabilization in hilly roads? Option A, hedge brush layer. Option B is rock anchoring. Option C, hydro sealing. Option D, crash barrier. We have two votes, one for C, one for D. Any other answer? Okay, so let's take a look at the right option. The right option is option D. It is a crash barrier. Right? So here we are looking again at slope stabilization, but the question is which is not a mitigation measure for slope stabilization, right? We need to so three of these are used for mitigating slope stabilization, and one of this is not, right? So we need to find the odd one out. So already I told that there are different measures available, right, for slope stabilization. We looked at bamboo nut plantation as one of the measures, right? So the other measures are basically hedge brush layer, rock anchoring, and hydro seeding, right? And hedge brush layer, so you try to grow some like grass and plants, so that will help you hold the soil, right? So the roots will hold the soil together, and therefore it will prevent them from eroding and then keep them stable. In rock anchoring, you will use high tensile steel rods, that will keep the soil together. In hydro seeding, so you will have basically water, seeds of plants, and then you will be spraying them, and also some soil stabilizing chemicals, and then you will mix them and then spray them along the slopes, and this will help you to hold the soil together, right? So if you are trying to grow grass or something, it will take time, but hydro seeding can speed up the process, and therefore quickly it can help you achieve the slope stabilization. So A, B, C are all measures that we can use for that. Whereas crash barrier is not relevant for slope stabilization, because it is a measure that we use for reducing traffic or improving the road safety, right? So basically these are you'll see these along the length of the road, beyond the shoulders, right? So it will help you prevent vehicles from off-roading, right? So it will help you keep them on the road. So these crash barriers are for road safety and not for slope stabilization. So therefore the right option is D. Okay, question number 13 is level of service E for airport represents the service level as dash. Options are inadequate comfort, excellent service, good comfort, and unacceptable. Okay, we have one vote for A, one for B. Any other answer? Okay, so let's look at the answer. The right option is option A. It is inadequate comfort. Right? So level of service E. So for airports. So how is this level of service defined? So if you look at it, so these are defined by the International Air Transport Association (IATA). Right? So that defines these level of service standards for airports. So it's based on two parameters. One is the space available per passenger, and then the waiting time for the passengers, right? So based on these two parameters, these level of service are defined. So basically, there are six different categories, right? So level of service A, B, C, all the way up to level of service F, right? So A being the the best level of service, F being the worst level of service, right? So A represents the excellent service, and F represents unacceptable level of service. Right? So in that list, if you look at it, so E will stand for inadequate. It is just above F, right? So F is unacceptable. E is just one level above that, so that stands for inadequate comfort level, right? So when you are designing a particular airport facility, you should provide a higher level of service, right? So that should be based on not only the current capacity or the current demand that facility will be catering to, but also you should look at a future demand, right? So because the demand will grow for that facility, so you should take that into consideration and design for that future demand level as well, right? So therefore, you should provide at least some good comfort level, right? So even at an increased demand, right? So that's what you should be designing for. So whereas level of service E is not acceptable, right? It's providing inadequate comfort. So that's what E stands for. The right option is A. So question number 14 is according to the impact assessment rating matrix, if the impact severity is high and the likelihood of the impact is medium, then the overall impact is considered to be dash. So the options are negligible, minor, moderate, major. We have one vote for option B, two votes for D. Any other answer? All right. Let's take a look at the option. The right option is option D, major. Okay. So we looked at this impact assessment rating matrix, right? So as part of I think the last case study. So that's where it was introduced. So basically, for every impact, we look at different aspects of it, right? So the two of those aspects are severity and the likelihood. So severity tells you, if this impact happens, right? If it occurs, so then what is the effect of it, right? So if it is high, as in this case, it means that this is going to have very, severe effect, on the environment, right? So therefore, it's a high impact or a high severity impact. And the likelihood of the impact. So what does that mean? So it tells you, how probable is seeing this impact occur, right? So what is the chance of this impact happening because of this project activities, right? That's the likelihood of the impact. So here the likelihood of the impact is medium, which means there is a decent chance of this impact occurring, and the severity is high, which means if it occurs, it's going to have very high impact, right? So based on that, we have to say whether the overall impact of it is going to be one of these four. So again, the impacts, the overall, they are classified into these four classes. So negligible means, that is not any significant impact, right? It's insignificant, and it's basically, it's like any natural change, right? So which means that uh, whether or not this project occurs or not, the change that we see is, it's not going to have any big impact, so therefore it is negligible. So minor means there will be noticeable changes because of this impact, but again it is not going to be significant, and therefore we need not again do any. We need not necessarily do any no mitigation measures. Whereas moderate means again there will be noticeable changes, and but again they will not be severe. But however, we should take mitigation measures, if it is possible, right? So that is the moderate impact. And major impact means it is very significant impact, and we must undertake the mitigation measures to reduce the impact, right? So that is the major impact. So here we are looking at a high severity impact and also with a medium likelihood, right? So which means there is a good chance of it occurring, and then when it occurs, it's going to have high severity. Therefore, this is a significant impact, and we should take mitigation measures for this particular impact. So therefore, it will be classified as a major impact, right? So therefore, the right option is D, it is major. Right? So it depends on the severity as well as the likelihood. The question number 15 is the dash is an imaginary flight path extending outwards from either side of the runway and generally up to 15 degrees of the runway. So the options are conical area, cylindrical area, funnel area, helical area. have one answer as C. Any other answers? Okay, two votes for C. Okay, so we'll look at the answer. So the right answer is option C. It is funnel area, right? So this is basically a term that we use, right? Funnel area. The definition is what is given in the question, right? So it is basically the imaginary flight path extending outwards from either side of the runway and generally up to 15 degrees of the runway, right? So why do we use this? So this funnel area. This funnel area is basically what whether we check whether is there any any externalities that can get into this funnel area, then we should really take into account of that and then have potential measures for that. For example, we saw in the case study 4 for this Guwahati International Airport, so for building that new terminal building. So there was a bird sanctuary located at a distance of 3 kilometers from this airport, right? So whether or not we should go ahead with this project or not. So one of the criteria that was looked at was whether this funnel area was intersecting with this particular bird sanctuary. So it was found that the sanctuary was not located within this funnel area, and therefore it's not the flight path is not going to be disturbing this particular facility, right? So therefore, it was not a problem that was needed to be addressed, right? So therefore, in that particular case, this helped us to decide whether there was a potential issue or not, right? So that's the funnel area for basically for the air transport that we use. So question number 16 is, as per EAA notification 2006, all airports come under category dash for EAA process. So options are A, B, B1, B2. Okay, so we have one vote for A, one for B, right? So let's take a look at the right option. The right option is option A, is category A, right? So in as per A 2006, so all airports will be there is only one classification for airports, right? So there is no parameter or threshold that decides whether it goes into A or B. So if it is an airport, then it by default comes under category A, right? So there is no multiple classifications for airport. It is always category A. Not only in A notification 2006, even under the draft notification of 2020, it was still category A for all airports, right? So the difference was in 2020 for heliports and for water aerodromes, uh, they were coming under category B1, B2, right? So everything else, if it is airport, it was always in category A, right? So therefore, the right option is A. So again, B1, B2, you need not even consider if it is 2006, right? Because in 2006 there are only two categories, A and B, right? So B1, B2 are directly not applicable. So the right option is category A for airports. So question number 17 is, which of the following is not a mitigation measure used on roads for reducing accidents? So options are hazard markers, raised reflective pavement marker, bamboo net plantation, crash barriers. We have two votes, one for B, one for D. Okay, any other answers? Okay, so let's look at the answer. So the right option is option C. It is bamboo net plantation, right? So we have to read the question carefully. Here we are asking which is not a mitigation measure, right? Which means which is not used for reducing the road accidents, right? So we already looked at what bamboo net plantations are, right? So what it is used for? It is used for slope stabilization, right? To prevent landsliding is where we are using the bamboo net plantation, right? It's not playing a role in reducing road accidents, right? So therefore, C is the right option, right? So you have to read the question carefully. So all the other three, A, B, and D, are used for improving the road safety, as I have already mentioned. So we looked at crash barriers, right? So they are, particularly on curves, they are very helpful, right? So they help vehicles from off-roading, or in case of crashes also, they will make sure that they do not they still stay on the roads and they do not go out of the the roadway. So the crash barriers are useful in that case. Other markers, so they help us bring attention to potential dangers on the road, right? So for example, if there is a tree that's not really visible, so those kind of things. So these hazard markers helps us, bring attention to those things and help reduce the accidents. And there is reflective pavement markers. Again, you might have noticed these on roads, along the the lines or the markers along the roads. You will see this small lights, that will be like small trapezoids along the roads, right? So, but usually in yellow and red colors. So these will have these reflective stickers along them, right? So that will shine at night times when lights falling on them. So that will provide an indication of where the the road boundaries are, because these line markers may not be sometimes visible properly, particularly at night times. And these raised reflective pavement markers, they help us know where these road boundaries are, and therefore help us reduce traffic incidents, right? So therefore all the three options A, B, and D are useful in reducing accidents, and therefore they are mitigation measures for it. So the one that is not a mitigation measure for road accidents is the bamboo net plantation, right? Therefore the right option is C. So question number 18 is, which of the following is not a stakeholder in the public consultation process of environmental impact assessment? The options are local NGOs, local banks, local people, local environmentalists. So we have one for B, one for D. Any other answer? Yeah, Joshua, do you have a question? You can unmute yourself and can answer the question. I will use the chat box. Okay, so let's take a look at the right answer. The right option is option B. It is local banks. Right, so here we are talking about the public consultation process, right? So getting the public feedback is one of the important steps in the environmental impact assessment, right? So we need to take into the consideration of the public opinion, right, and incorporate their measures that address their concerns as part of the mitigation plans, right? So for that, so who do we include? So who do we ask these opinions from, right? So as the name suggests, it is the public consultation. So it's from the people, right? So who are being affected by the project, right? So or the representatives, from that region for the people who are being affected. So from that standpoint, so the local NGOs, so they can participate in the public consultation, right? So NGOs are non-governmental organizations, so they can represent, they can voice their opinions. So the local people themselves, right? So the individuals themselves, they can participate and they can raise their concerns or seek clarifications or provide feedback. The local environmentalists also, they can pitch in their opinions or ideas. So these are the stakeholders that can take part in the public consultation. The banks, they are not really the local banks, they are not really representing uh, the people for as part of this environmental impact is concerned, right? So therefore, they are not really a stakeholder in the public consultation process. So therefore, the right option is B. Okay, question number 19 is match the impacts with their appropriate mitigation measures. Right. So we have in one column different impacts are given, which are safety and comfort of local community, dust and emissions during construction, soil erosion and deforestation. And in second column, we are given with different measures for mitigating these impacts. So they are vehicles with PUC certificates, sprinkling of water on unpaved roads, hydro seeding, compensatory afforestation, nighttime piling activity avoided near residential areas. Right. So you want to match the right mitigation measure with the corresponding impact. So we have four matchings given. So the right matching has to be chosen. We have one answer so far for option A. Any other answers? Another vote for option D. Okay, one more for option C. Okay, so let's take a look at the right option. The right option is option C. Okay, so where A is matched with 4, B is matched with 1. C with 2 and D with 3, right? So first one is safety and comfort of the local community. So, so what happens? So basically, when your project involves some drilling or piling activities, it's going to have a lot of noise and vibrations, right, in the nearby areas. Right? So that if it is near any residential areas, so that's going to affect the residents of those localities, right? So considering also the safety is also a concern, at night time. So there could be accidents when you have these activities going on at night. So considering the safety and comfort, so generally one measure that is adopted is to stop these firing activities at night times, right? So when it is located near residential areas. So therefore, A is matched with 4. So B is dust and emissions during construction. So this is very common, right? So almost all construction activities is going to have some, dust and also some emissions that are going to be, coming out. So to prevent this, so one measure that could be adopted is to use the vehicles. So whatever is the vehicle that are being used in the activity, uh, to use those that have the PUC certificate. So PUC means pollution under control. So we are using, well equipped and those those vehicles with these certificates. And also to prevent dust, one common strategy is to sprinkle water. So when you have the dry in dry conditions, so there will be this dust can really get into the air and then it will spread. Whereas if you sprinkle water, it will reduce or it will contain this dust from spreading. So therefore, sprinkling of water. So especially if you look at road construction, this unpaved roads, which means there's no bitumen layer. So there will be just this earth and road. So from that you will have this dust coming off. So if you sprinkle water on them frequently, so there won't be any dust coming out of that. Right? So therefore, that is one of the mitigation measures. So B is matched with 1. So C is soil erosion. So again, we have looked at the different measures. So hydro seeding, we already looked at it. One of the measures that we use for preventing soil erosion. So C is matched with 2. And finally, we have deforestation. The deforestation is cutting down of trees. So one of the mitigation measures, so the offsetting strategy we saw, which is to plant new trees, right? So that is nothing but the compensatory afforestation. So afforestation is the opposite of deforestation, which is planting trees. So we compensate the trees that we are cutting down by planting new trees, right? So that is the compensatory afforestation. So D is matched with 3, right? So therefore the right matching is given in option C, right? So therefore the right option is C. Okay, so the question number is given incorrectly here. It should be question 19. Okay. Okay, so any questions? So with that, we are coming to the end of this particular session for week number 4. So if you have any doubts or questions, you can ask now. Otherwise, we'll meet again next week. Okay, same time on Sunday. If you have any doubts from previous weeks also, you can ask. Yeah, yeah, Joshua, you can go ahead. Yeah, so if you don't have any doubts, you can feel free to log out. Otherwise, if you have doubts, you can stay back and ask. Yeah, Joshua, what's your doubt? So licensing is the result of. So okay, that was one of the questions in week 3. So licensing is a result of dash step, and the options were public participation, review, scoping, and environmental management plan. Right. So those are the options. Yeah. So public participation. So again, it is one of the steps in the EA process where we take the feedback from the public. Right. So it has nothing to do with the licensing of the project. Right. So who carries out or whether they are eligible to carry it out. So that is not really coming out of the public participation. It is more to address the the concerns the public, if any, the public has, right? So that's or to make them aware of this project, to give them more clarity of what this project is, what its impact is going to be, and so on. So that's the the idea of this public, bringing the public participation, right? So that's the wrong option. So then we have scoping. So scoping is again one of the earliest steps, right? So we have seen what scoping, what does that do. So in scoping, we basically said what are the things that this project is going to cover. What kind of activities are going to be involved. What is the site or the area of influence. So designing all that is part of the scoping step. So again, licensing is not part of that. Then we have the environment management plan. So what is the environment management plan? It is basically so in this particular step, what we do, it is so we have different impacts and we are coming up with different mitigation measures. Right. So this environment management plan will tell us how we are going to implement these different mitigation measures. So we say we are going to say, for example, for deforestation. So we saw that compensatory afforestation was one of the measures, mitigation measure. So what kind of trees are you going to plant? So where are you going to plant? So those kind of details will be part of your environment management plan. Right. Again, this has nothing to do with the licensing of the project. So the only option out of the given ones is that is left is review. That is the right option also. So review as a part of this review step in the AA. So this is one of the final stages of the AA process. So once you do all the previous steps, once you take care of all the processes that are in the EAA, so finally you come to the review stage, right? So once you have passed all the different steps, so once you have taken care of all of them, so finally in the review stage, so you look at all these things, whether it is everything, every process is duly addressed. So if everything is done, then in the review stage, you provide the license, for the active for the project to go ahead, right? So therefore, the output of the review step is the licensing. Therefore, the right option is review. Okay, is that clear? Joshua, is that answer okay? Licensing for the licensing question. Okay. So then, in AIA, which of the following is true with respect to the project? Okay, so I think the fifth question, right? So in EAA, which of the following is true with respect to the project area? So the options given are area of direct influence greater than the net project area greater than the total project area, then total project area greater than the area of direct influence, then the net project area greater than the area of direct influence. So I think in the last week's session we discussed this, right? So we have these three, terms or different terms referring to three different areas. One is the net project area, then total project area, and the area of direct influence. So according to the scale, so the smallest is the net project area. So this is the the direct or the actual, the area occupied by the activities or the final, the establishment or the development coming out of this project, right? So for example, the roadway example that we looked at. So the final, the roadway, the width of the roadway, that will be your net project area, right? So the area occupied by the development that is coming out of this project, that will be the net project area. So this is the smallest of the three areas that we are talking about. So then there will be the total project area. So total project area will include the net project area plus some more. So what is the sum more? The sum more could include the area for example, that you may have acquired, for example, for future expansions and so on. So in the case of again roadways, this will include the roadway width plus the land that is lying up to the the front of the buildings on the sides of the road, right? So again, as you can imagine, so this is larger than the net project area that we earlier discussed, right? So that is the total project area. So after the total project area comes the area of direct influence. So this is larger than the previous two, net project and the total project area. So what is this area of direct influence? Again, as the name suggests, it is the surrounding region, so which will be directly affected by any impact that is caused from this projects or the development activities, right? Again, from this highway example, we could have noise pollution as one of the impacts, right? So it is not just the buildings that are adjacent to the road that are going to be affected, right? So it is going to be somewhat of a larger area. So buildings even some a block away could also be affected, by the noise from the highways or the road that is passing through that area, right? So so all this so any point that is affected by this particular project, so that will be coming under the area of direct influence. So this will be the largest area out of the three that we are talking about. So if you look, so if we are comparing these three different areas, the net project area will be smaller than the total project area, which will be smaller than the area of direct influence, right? So therefore, out of the four options given, so the right option is area of direct influence is greater than the net project area, right? So that was given in the first option. So the other three options were incorrect because option B said net area greater than total area, so that is incorrect. Total area greater than area of direct influence, again incorrect. Net area greater than area of direct influence, that is also incorrect, right? So therefore, the first option was the correct one. Okay, was that clear? Okay. So the third one is done quick assessment of likely adverse impact. Okay. So dash is done for quick assessment of likely adverse impacts. So the options given were scoping process EAA, comprehensive EAA, strategic EAA, and rapid EAA. Right. So scoping process. Uh, so basically here we are talking about the type of EAA. So basically we have two broad classes. One is the rapid EAA and the comprehensive EAA. So rapid EAA is something that is not very detailed, right? It does not go into finer details or look into exhaustively all the different parameters and so on. So all the different processes that we have looked at, it does not follow all that. So that's why it's the rapid EAA. It's done for if it is a very a small scale activity, it's not having any severe impact. In that case, we'll go for a rapid EAA because the EAA is a time consuming process, right? So if it's not going to be really a high impact project or large scale project, it's not necessary to spend all this time and money to do a detailed or a comprehensive EAA. So in that case, we go for a rapid EAA. So that is that is time saving. Whereas comprehensive EA is more laborious, more time consuming, and also more costly to do. And that's why it's called comprehensive, right? It's very detailed, and it is necessary if it is going to be a high impact critical project and also a large scale, right? So in that case, we go for comprehensive EA. So these are the two broad classes so that we go for. Right. So here we are talking about an EAA that is done for quick assessment of likely adverse impacts. So again, this is the definition for the rapid EAA, right? So therefore, the answer is rapid EAA. So the other two are not really relevant here. The scoping process is one particular stage in the EAA process, right? So it's not a type of EAA. It's a particular stage in the EAA process. Again, strategic EAA is again one of the different categories that we have, right? So it's not one of the two broad classes of rapid or comprehensive. So it's one of these two that we have to pick, rapid and comprehensive. And when it has to be quick, it has to be the rapid EAA, right? So the right option is B, rapid EAA. Okay, did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, any other doubts you have or questions? All right. Okay, so there are no further questions. We can wrap up this session. Uh, Thank you for attending. So we'll meet again next week, Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Okay. So if you have no questions, you can feel free to log out. You'll just stay back for a couple of minutes in case